Chapter 4. Tent. She and Ron needed to talk. Even though they were taking a short breather for their relationship, Ron deserved to be told. Hermione put quill to parchment, but it didn't matter what she wrote, or the tone she used. He'd likely interpret the message to mean, "I'm pregnant." Regardless of how she broke the news, it was likely to end badly. At least, Arthur had suggested the 3 broomsticks. "Ron, can we talk alone? I'm available tomorrow after work at the 3 broomsticks. Let me know if this sounds good to you. H." Hermione signed and signaled for the rented owl. It would have to do. A knock sounded at her door. While it shouldn't have been a surprise to her that it was Snape, when she glanced through the spyglass, it was. Happily surprised, actually, despite the late hour of the evening. "I'm glad you're here," she said, opening the door wide. "We have a lot to talk about." How odd. There was a cat tucked up under his arm. It leapt to the ground and sauntered towards the kitchen. Hermione frowned. Crookshanks was very territorial and wouldn't take kindly to another cat scenting in his home, which didn't at all answer the question as to why he'd brought a cat. "I agree," Severus smoothly replied, removing his wand. In a short series of swishes and flicks, the cardboard boxes in his pocket resized themselves into the center of her living room. "What are you doing?" Hermione asked, bewildered. Severus rubbed his hands together. They felt gritty from the dust accumulation and hard work. He barely spared the witch a glance. "Moving in. Or haven't you heard? What's yours is mine. What's mine is yours." It took Hermione more than a moment to recover, but watching him root around her kitchen helped her find her voice. "Wait, what happened to being married on paper only? You and I going our separate ways?" No, there was simply no way she could allow him to stay. "You have no stapled foods," he called from her icebox. "I do too. Milk and cereal, 2 highly nutritious staple foods. And don't change the subject, Snape," she said, moving behind his rather well-formed behind as it stuck out of her icebox. Snape's ass looked much more appealing in tailored trousers than billowing robes, and she could admire it now. Couldn't she? His sins were many. His personality was thoroughly lacking, and Hermione had no illusion about the man to whom she was currently married. But he had a nice-looking ass. She could appreciate that at least. "Circumstances have changed. Believe me when I say I'm only here out of necessity. I'll draw up a list of groceries for you to pick up when you're out." Her back teeth gnashed together, a bad habit her parents tried to break her of. It led to tooth sensitivity, muscle soreness, joint pain, and could, under extenuating conditions, crack a molar. He frowned at her partly. "I'm going to need a better explanation than that. You may have gotten past my wards, but you're not welcome here yet, and I don't believe I've asked you to move in." "Your wards won't keep me out," Snape said dismissively. The kitchen inspected, he brushed past her to the hallway. "Unless you modify, most wardings allow family members to pass. We're family now. Or had that detail escaped you?" Hermione bristled. She knew that, of course. Not that it had ever occurred to her. She didn't have wizarding family. Hermione made a mental note to adjust her wards. "That's the linen closet," she said with a sigh as he gave himself the grand tour. "Obviously." Snape found the second bedroom she used as a home office and looked over his shoulders in scorn. "This won't do." Hermione rolled her eyes. The other 2 doors led to her bedroom and bathroom. Snape inspected them with mild curiosity. "Is this it, then?" It was nearly smaller than Spinner's End, and that was saying quite a bit. "That's all for the east wing. My humble apologies, but the west wing, servants' quarters, and guest house are being renovated." Cheeky witch. He glanced in the second bedroom. The Muggle gadgetry would have to be binned. Otherwise, it would be sufficient until he could find a place of his own. With some doing, he could perhaps manage to get most of his books unpacked, once he cleared her shelves. "I'll get my things," he muttered, brushing past her. Hermione had her wand out, shrinking the boxes back down to the size of small pebbles for transportation. She levitated them to her hand and dropped them to his palm. Severus was about to thank her for his assistance when she opened her front door and gestured with her hand for him to leave. Look, I try not to be rude to my guests in my home, but this is twice now you've shown up unannounced and uninvited. And while I appreciate you coming here to point out the inadequacy of my flat and pantry, it's time you left. You're not welcome here, you're not moving in, and as far as I'm concerned, we're not married. So if you don't mind, please leave. Severus drew himself up to intimidate the diminutive witch. My apologies, Miss Granger. Pardon me, Miss Snape. Perhaps I haven't made myself clear. Circumstances have changed. Right. That explains nothing, and it means absolutely nothing to me. There was a slight tick in his cheek as Snape stood his ground, silent, but obviously considering her words. Fine. His posture and bearings relaxed slowly. I am at present homeless. I'm very sad to hear that. How unfortunate. She had not closed the door. Delightful ass or not, she would be glad to see him leave. Did I not sign your Gringotts account? Take care of yourself, Snape. You're a grown adult and not my problem. Damn and damn. Hermione watched with trepidation as Severus Snape began to tread her carpet, prowling like a tiger caught in a cage. His wand was out as he rolled it reflexively. She wondered if she needed her own wand. He got her eyes tracking the movement of it, and as if realizing for the first time he'd been brandishing it, he stowed it in his breast pocket with a look that could only be described as embarrassment. Snape closed his eyes and stood before her tense, as if every muscle were pulled taut. My Gringotts account is nearly empty, he said with his eyes closed as if he couldn't bear to witness her judgment. I spent it all before the final battle.